Hello, I'm Rory, and I want to welcome you to the American Pets Alive webinar, Ringworm Cats Send Them Home, hosted today by Monica Frienden. Monica is the Director of Feline Lifesaving at American Pets Alive, an instructor for the American Pets Alive Maddie's Lifesaving Academy, and a City of Austin Animal Advisory Commissioner. In 2012, Monica joined Austin Pets Alive, where she served as the cat program manager, led her team to an 88% growth in cat adoptions, and helped Austin achieve a citywide 98% live release rate for cats, helping to make Austin the safest place in America to be a cat. Over the next half hour or so, you'll learn the best practices of how to send ringworm cats out. Please submit any questions that you have throughout today's presentation, and we'll make time to answer them at the end. Take it away, Monica.
Thanks so much, Rory. Thanks everybody for joining us today. Like Rory said, we're going to try and keep this to about a half an hour so that you can hopefully be enjoying your lunch or snack right now, or your break, and then we'll get you back to work so you can get back out there and save more cats. So we're going to talk about ringworm cats today and about sending them home. So first of all, our favorite fungus, what's going on with them in the state of our shelters nowadays? Ringworm cats are still, unfortunately, excuse me, one of the groups at highest risk of euthanasia in this country. Even though ringworm has never killed anyone, we still lose lots and lots of cats' lives to ringworm in this country. And so they're still one of the highest risk cats that exist. And it's largely because of these three reasons. There's a lot of fear and myth and stigma still surrounding ringworm. You've all heard the myth that people still think ringworm is actually a worm, right, and not a fungus. There's a lot of fear about ringworm. Even though ringworm has never killed anyone, we're all kind of terrified of it, and a lot of us treat ringworm like it's Ebola and it's this flesh-eating virus, and we're very, very worried about it. And there's some really good reasons for that. If you're really nerdy, you can kind of go down a rabbit hole and learn the history of ringworm. It wasn't until 1959 when Gracefulvin was invented that we stopped treating ringworm in really, really archaic ways. We used to actually irradiate humans with ringworm up until 1959, which was not that long ago. We would irradiate people and dump wax on their skin and then rip off the wax to get the hair and the skin off. So you can kind of start to see why we may have some of these lingering fears and myths about ringworm. When up until 1959, if you had ringworm, we would irradiate you as a human for it. If you were an immigrant coming to this country and you had ringworm, another great example, we would reject you and we would send you back. So we have a kind of a long and shady history with ringworm in this country that I think maybe perpetuates why we have some of these lingering fears about why we're still so afraid of ringworm in this country, even though it's a harmless fungus. Along with that, we've got a lot of antiquated ideas in industry still about how contagious ringworm is and how it's spread. And I know that you guys who are listening, you feel this in your daily work as well, that everyone is terrified that ringworm is going to take over the shelter and cause this pandemic in your community, and every animal there is going to get ringworm and your staff is going to get ringworm. There's a lot of myths out there about that. And then the biggest problem with ringworm is the length of stay and the treatment time that it takes these cats. And so while ringworm has never killed anybody, it is a pain in the butt for sure for shelter workers everywhere because it just takes time to treat. So that's kind of what's going on with cats with ringworm in industry right now. And for this webinar, we're going to talk about the length of stay and what we can do about it, because I think that's our biggest holdup. So treatment on these guys, unfortunately, takes anywhere from a few weeks to a few months. So unfortunately, ringworm is not a quick fix. This little kitten here, this little hairless gremlin that you see on screen, she's not going to take a couple days to treat, right? She's going to be with us for at least a couple months. And so that causes a lot of problems on our back end at the shelter. The other issues that we're dealing with is that ringworm is largely a disease of kittens. We see it largely in kittens because kittens, of course, are gross little creatures that have no immune systems, and so they're most likely to get opportunistic fungus like ringworm. And when you have a high population of kittens, as everybody knows who's listening to this webinar, you've got a high population of cats with other illness like URI and diarrhea and all the fun things that kittens come with. And so that kind of compounds the problem of treating a group of cats. They're all kittens, they're all getting sick, and they all have ringworm. But what else happens when we are treating kittens with ringworm is that typically we're not providing them with the levels of socialization that they need at that age, because they're kind of sequestered away in our ringworm treatment areas. They're not getting that human interaction from staff, from volunteers, from adopters. And when we have these kittens who are sequestered away in our ringworm treatment areas and they're not available to the public, we're losing that critical adoption window when the kittens are super small and cute, like this little gremlin on the screen, right? So if we wait until she's done being treated to let her be visible to adopters, she's probably going to be, 3 times that size, and she's going to be cute still, but not quite as cute, and attracting those adopters who want the tiny, tiny little babies. Outside of kittens, all cats who are being treated with ringworm, of course, ringworm, the longer length of stay, we all know in industry that the longer that we have a cat in shelter, the more sick we're making her, right? We know that shelters make cats sick. So the longer you keep a cat in treatment for any illness, the sicker we're going to make her. The mental deterioration of keeping a cat in the shelter for long, you need to start weighing that into taking that into effect. You're going to run out of space, obviously. Again, everyone listening to this is, I'm sure, working with cats in their shelter, and you are all very familiar of running out of space for cats during your peak season. And when we're tying up that space treating cats and kittens with ringworm, indefinitely, that's compounding things. And then lastly, I want everybody to think about how much it costs you every day to keep your kennel full with an animal. If you've not done the math on this, it'll really surprise you on what that space costs. At Austin Pets Alive, for example, we know that it costs us over $22 a day per cat just to have a cat in a condo. And that takes a lot of money when you start adding it up. And so you need to consider your resources and where they're best spent. And is it best spent keeping this cat and kitten in a cage for a few weeks to a few months to treat it for ringworm? The biggest problem with length of stay on our ringworm cats is, of course, though, that when your space is full at the shelter, when all your condos and your foster homes are full, that means you can't go out and save more cats, right? And so that is really the biggest problem. Because we know that ringworm cats are at such a high risk, we really need to think of how we can drop their length of stay and move them through our system the quickest. And so that's what we're going to focus on today, is moving them through as fast as humanly possible so that we can save more and more ringworm cats. And this little gremlin you see on the screen here, a little chupacabra, her name was Poppy Seed, by the way. So that was her before and after her ringworm treatment. So how do we reduce our length of stay on ringworm cats? This is a big mic drop moment. There is no new-fangled fancy medicine or treatment that is going to speed up the resolution of ringworm. It doesn't exist. You can only reduce your length of stay by letting the kittens go home with ringworm. So they're going to be adopted with ringworm. They're going to go home to their forever home with the ringworm. That's the concept that we're going to explore today, and we're going to tell you how to do that. So the first trick, how you're going to start to do this, you need to let people come in and visit with your cats with ringworm. And I can feel you, some of you guys listening, clutching your pearls here. You're going to need to let people come visit the cats. They're going to need to come into the ringworm area, touch the cats, play with the cats, snuggle the cats, visit with the cats. Let people come in and see them. This is a relatively new concept for some places. We have been doing this in Austin for over a decade. On the right, you can see our Maddie's Cat Adoption Center. That's our ringworm adoption center. It's open to the public. On the bottom left is an example from Pima Animal Care and Control out in Tucson. They call their ringworm adoption center the Fungal Jungle. And the Fungal Jungle down at Pima is a room right inside their main cat adoption room. It doesn't even have a door. You can just walk from one area into the next and visit and adopt the ringworm cats. At Austin Pets Alive, we've got this section of our shelter where people can come in and see the ringworm cats. It's actually the very first place that you can get to a cat when you pull into our parking lot. It's front and center so that people will come in and see these ringworm cats first before they can see any other animal. So let people come in and touch them and adopt the cats. We know that environmental transmission and transmission from fomites is actually a low risk. This is not a high risk for you to let people come in and touch and hold cats. They're not going to spread it to the rest of your shelter and cause a pandemic. There is lots and lots of good science out there nowadays about ringworm, about dermatophytosis. And we know that it is, in fact, a really low risk, not no risk, but low risk to let people come in and touch. We know that the highest risk of transmission is cat-to-cat contact. That's high risk. So 2 cats rubbing up against each other, that's going to spread ringworm. But it is a low risk for environmental or fomite transmission. So you can let people come in and touch and not worry about spreading ringworm throughout the rest of your shelter. So number 2, how to get them to go home. So you're letting people in the door now, and now you've really got to educate them on what ringworm is and help them get past the really unfortunate name that we have given this fungus, ringworm. And we do that at Austin Pets Alive with the concept that if something is funny, it can't be scary. And so we spend our day making fun of ringworm. Ringworm, fortunately, has so many puns that you can indulge in, and we make fun of ringworm. I tell my students who come to Austin all the time, ringworm is stupid, and that's how we're going to treat it. We're going to make fun of it, because if I can get someone laughing about something, now they're not afraid of it. So all of our promos for ringworm cat adoptions are kind of like the one you see on your screen right now. We did Stranger Rings. We did this promotional event when Stranger Things came out, and so we kind of capitalized on that. But all of our promos for ringworm are funny. We make fun of the fungus. We giggle about it, and we embrace it and tease the ringworm. When you come into our shelter at Austin Pets Alive, we're walking the walk with these cats too. And what I mean with that is when you come into our Ringworm Adoption Center, we are not gowned up in hazmat suits. We're not wearing booties and gloves. We don't have the hair nets on. We're walking around like normal. We're snuggling the cats. We're holding them. We're not doing anything different, because we are supposed to be the experts. When someone comes into your shelter, you're supposed to be the expert. You're supposed to know. And so you're setting the tone for how the adopter thinks and believes. So if they walk in your door and you're gowned up in a hazmat suit, that sets a pretty strict tone that something is very contagious and very wrong with this cat, and they need to take extreme protections or they're going to risk getting sick, right? And that's not the tone that we want to set with ringworm. We want people to understand that this is a perfectly safe and relatively normal thing to have. You don't really need to gown up in a hazmat suit like someone has a flesh-eating virus to go in and visit these cats. So walk the walk. Make sure that you're setting a good example for how you want ringworm to be perceived in your shelter when adopters or visitors come in. Incentivize. So in Austin, all of our cats who are undergoing ringworm treatment always have their adoption fees either waived or reduced by 50%. 50% is the standard reduction, and then all the time we waive fees for ringworm adoption events like the Stranger Rings promo that you see on your screen. On the bottom left, this is our mission, our program mission statement for the Ringworm Adoption Center, and you can kind of see what it does, what our mission statement says. But the clincher for this is our last line says that we're saving as many lives as possible while putting the fun in fungus. So we really go out of our way to make this a fun program, make fun of the ringworm, let the community come in and embrace it. The reality is that most people do not know that ringworm cats are being killed and euthanized in this country for having a harmless fungus. And so we want a way to educate them that is tangible, that is, that they can relate to and that they can start getting involved in. So go ahead and make fun of the ringworm. It's actually a lot of fun. You're going to find there's so many puns out there that you can use for ringworm. Okay, so you've let people in your door and you've convinced them that ringworm is not a flesh-eating virus and it's no big deal and that they can treat it. And so we're going to let people adopt them now, but we're not just going to send these cats home. We're not just going to throw them out to the wolves and say, good luck, thanks, get this ringworm out of here and you're on your own now. Of course not, right? We want to set our adopters up for success. So this is somebody who adopted these 2 little ringworm kittens with us in Austin. And when you adopt a ringworm kitten from us, we send that cat or kitten home with the remainder of her treatment. So both the topical treatment, the lime sulfur dip, and the oral treatment. We use terbinafine in Austin. So we send that adopter home with whatever was prescribed to them at the time when the animal was owned by us in our care. That goes home with adopter. We train the adopter on how to do the dipping, how to give the meds, how to clean their house up afterwards. We train them on how to deal if they've got kids in the house, how to set their bathroom up, walk them through the entire thing. And a ringworm adoption will take us longer at Austin Pets Alive so that we can go through all that. It'll take us about 45 minutes in some cases. So it does take a little longer, but we're very thorough setting adopter up for success. We give folks lots of handouts and FAQs, and I'm going to show you what some of those look like on the next screen, and I'm going to give you a link where you can download them yourself so that you can use them and tailor them to your organization and give them out. One thing that we've done that we've had good success with too is we have a Ringworm adopter support group on Facebook that we let people sign up for if you've adopted a cat or kitten with Ringworm. And that really not only cultivates a sense of community for people who've adopted Ringworm cats and kittens, but they support one another. So if they've got a question at 2 in the morning, you know, they're trying to dip a cat and it's just, you know, clawed up their shower curtain and things are going haywire, they can log on to that other support group and other adopters will help them. The group is actually really fun. It's usually a lot of people posting cute before and after photos of what their little chupacabra looked like before treatment and how it's looking now, and people really like to see that. So a Ringworm adopters support group on Facebook is a free way for you to support adopters. We also have a Ringworm foster Facebook group where fosters support other fosters, and that's been really helpful. People like to support other people. And then we've got an email that is volunteer run. It's just ringwormhelp@, and our adopters or our fosters can email in with questions any time of day so that our team can get back to them and be a support network for them during the complete duration of their treatment. So we're not just going to throw adopters out to the wolves. We're going to set them up for success, and we're going to remain a safety net for them so that they can always come back and get help from us along the way, because most people have never dipped a cat, right? They've not bathed a cat, and this is all new to them. So we want to help them be successful going home, finish up their treatment, clear the cat, and then move on to happy forever after with their cat. So some of those handouts like we were talking about, we've got a Ringworm FAQ available to adopters and fosters and visitors. And you can download this online, but it runs through your standard frequently asked questions. You know, am I going to get ringworm from my kitty? We are honest with people. You might. It's unlikely, but yes, you could. Technically, it is zoonotic, and you could get ringworm. So don't lie to people. We're not going to do that. Yep, you might get the ringworm. It's unlikely, but you could. Here's what to do if you do get the ringworm. Same thing, what about my other pets? Are my other cats or dogs going to get this? Don't lie to people. Yes, they could. It's unlikely, and you should keep them separated, but they could. And here's what you will do if that does happen. What treatment will my new cat need? And then what do I do about my house? How do I clean this up? That's a big question. And there's a lot of myth about that too, right? We're always kind of told that once you have ringworm in your home, you need to, like, you know, firebomb it to get rid of the ringworm. I remember hearing that 20 years ago. You know, ringworm was like you would need a nuclear explosion to get it out of your house, and there was all these myths about you'd have to clean your air vents, and you know. Thankfully nowadays we know that that's not the case. It's actually quite easy to clean your house up after ringworm. On the left, you can see that Maddie's Fund just published a new study about how to clean up your home after ringworm, your foster home, and that came out just last fall in October, and you can find it online. That it's actually really easy to clean up ringworm in your foster homes or in your shelter. And you can find that right online, and that's a great thing, a great handout to give people who come in. I like to have handouts from other really respected institutions like Maddie's Fund so that visitors and adopters can see that it's not just us who's kind of pushing an agenda, that it's actually accepted best practice and published studies, so that people feel confident that what we're telling them is accurate and true and the latest science. So lots and lots of handouts we make available to people to help educate them on these issues. So here's kind of what everybody in the room who's got a legal background is saying, and here's what we're afraid of, that if we let cats and kittens go home with ringworm, we're going to get in trouble somehow. People are going to get sick, we're going to get sued, we're going to cause a pandemic in the community, and the lawyers are going to lose their minds, and we're going to lose everything, right? So we've been doing this in Austin for over a decade, and knock on wood, and I probably shouldn't say this online, but or out loud, but we have never been sued. No one has ever gotten ringworm from coming in to visit or sent us nasty emails about it. We used to, back in the day, have a waiver, this waiver that you see on your screen. It used to be outside the door for our Ringworm Adoption Center, and we would ask people to sign it before they came in. And it just said that, hey, you know you're entering an area where cats are undergoing treatment for ringworm, and you understand that ringworm is zoonotic, and basically you're signing away your liability that if you get ringworm when you enter this building, that is not our fault. We told you. We stopped doing this, and we've not had any ill effect from not doing this anymore. But you certainly could use a ringworm door waiver if you are new to this and you're very worried and you want to be very thorough. We don't do it anymore because think about, do you have a waiver on any other door at your shelter or on every condo for an animal that the animal might have something zoonotic or it might scratch or bite someone? Of course you don't. There's inherent risk to coming and visiting an animal shelter, and probably every single animal in your care at the shelter right now has some sort of zoonotic disease that technically a visitor could get, but we don't put waivers on everything, right? We don't put waivers on every single kennel door. And so we've stopped doing the ringworm door waiver at Austin. You can just walk right into the door and we're going to say, hi, come and visit with the ringworm cats. But you certainly could, and it did work for us back in the early days when we were kind of pioneering this concept. And it did work well. And like I said, knock on wood, no one has ever attempted to even sue us about getting ringworm. Here's our ringworm adoption waiver. And again, I'm going to give you a link where you can download this. So if you do adopt a ringworm cat, we are obviously going to disclose. We disclose absolutely everything. I'm a big believer in disclose, disclose, disclose. If we know something about an animal, you're going to know something about that animal. And so our ringworm adoption waiver covers all of your kind of legal fears. We are releasing liability onto you. You initial that you understand, you've been educated that ringworm can be contagious. You understand that we recommend it not, a cat with ringworm does not go to a home with someone who is immunocompromised. If adopter elects to take a ringworm cat or kitten home to a household that's got small children or is immunocompromised, you, the adopter, have signed off on that risk. We advise you not to do it, but you've said you're going to do it anyway, so you're accepting all of the risk and liability for that. And that basically you're going to hold us harmless. So most things in life, if you disclose, and you tell people sign off, you did tell me about all the risks and I assume them, I'm taking them all upon myself, I'm good to go. That really does cover you from a legal standpoint, that as long as you tell people. And so this is available for you to download online as well. Okay, and other sort of excuses, and I know there's lots and lots and lots of excuses out there. One that I hear, not just for ringworm all the time, but for lots of medical conditions, everything from URI to broken bones or calicivirus, you name it. We have a issue in this country where our medical personnel doesn't like to let animals in treatment go home until they're 100%. And that's something that we really need to get around if we're going to be no-kill, if we're going to save the most amount of lives, because we cannot keep all these animals in care and treat them forever and still save all the animals that need to be saving. We have to start putting our trust and our faith in the community, in our adopters, and letting those animals go home and finish their treatment in home. Not only does animal heal better in home versus a shelter, but there's something strange that happens when an adopter takes home an animal who is sick or injured and is finishing up for treatment. That adopter bonds with that pet more so than they do if they adopted a healthy pet home. We've got some studies on the books now that show that. And it also creates this culture of the adopter becomes a hero and a rescuer, and that creates a wonderful community, and that's what keeps people coming back to your doors and makes them supporters of animal rescue. I certainly understand where our medical staff is coming from with not wanting to let these animals go home during treatment. You know, our medical providers have an obligation and a sense of duty to these animals to make sure that they're doing the best work possible for them, and that is certainly admirable. Something that I like to kind of use as an example and keep in mind, if you were to bring your personal pet cat to a private practice veterinarian for treatment, so say your personal cat at home got ringworm and you took her to the vet would not take that cat back and say, okay, we're hospitalizing her, she needs to stay here now, and you can pick her up in 2 to 3 months. So unless that's going to happen, then we, as a shelter worker, should be sending that cat home. Same thing with URI and other minor ailments. If you took your cat to the vet for a URI, they wouldn't say, great, we're going to lock her up in the back and come back in a month after the URI is gone. Of course not. They would send you home with the treatment and trust that a normal average person could take care of that issue. And so the same is true for ringworm. Go ahead and trust people that they can and will do it. You've got your local veterinarian community may be protesting, and this is very real, and depending on where you are in the country, it might be more real for you than other places. We still get this in Austin. Occasionally we'll have a local practitioner who does not agree that we should be sending ringworm cats home. It's relatively rare, maybe once or twice a year we'll hear this now in Austin, but it does happen, and you should be prepared for it. You know, you're always going to have someone who doesn't agree with what you're doing. The thing to keep in mind about ringworm and private practice veterinarians is that ringworm is a disease that we see in shelter. Shelter medicine really leads the way on ringworm knowledge and science. And so you may have to do a little bit of educating. There's some great studies out that private practice only sees 2% of ringworm. Of all the skin condition cats that they see, only 2% of those, 2.4%, will be ringworm. So shelter medicine workers really have the bulk of the knowledge on ringworm. And so that may mean that you may need to call some of those local DVMs or clinics that are protesting and kind of talk to them and walk through why you're doing this. And here's what your treatment protocol is, and here's why you're running this program, and offer to send those clinics the latest and greatest research. When this happens in Austin, we have a local clinic who protests, doesn't like what we're doing with our ringworm cats. Our lead medical director, our DVM, will typically call that clinic up and have a conversation with their lead vet and walk them through why we do what we do. But we will also be really kind of upfront and respectfully honest and say, then, okay, we will not send any of our 11,000 adopters a year to your clinic. We'll make sure that they know that you don't agree with this program and you are not on board with the treatment, and we appreciate that, and we respect that that's your decision. But we go a long way to cultivating what our local private practice community looks like. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that on the next screen. The last thing that I hear from a lot of my students who come is that they say our community just isn't ready. We're just not ready. People are just not going to adopt these cats. The community is just too conservative, and we're just not going to do it. And I've actually heard this from some of the most progressive cities in this country. And I'm going to call all of you out who use that excuse, because I think it's bull. I think you guys are the ones that aren't ready. Your community isn't even aware that cats with ringworm are dying. And I promise you that if you make them aware that those cats are dying, and if you give them good support on how to treat this, and you give them good education on what ringworm is and how they can overcome it, that they will embrace this program in your community just as much as they have in Austin and in Tucson and in other communities that are progressively sending these cats and kittens home. People will never be ready if you don't push them a little bit, right? So you've got to push them in that direction, educate them, give them good follow-up. But it's really us, the shelter workers, who aren't ready for these big changes. It's not our community. Time and time again, as more and more communities move towards no-kill and their live release rate grows, we are kind of proving that our community is ready. It's shelter staff, it's shelter personnel who are kind of afraid, and we need to push the boundaries of our own staff there. So another screen on cultivating those clinics. We will literally call up our local clinics and we'll talk to them. How do you treat for ringworm? Did you know about our program? Do you know that we're sending these cats home? You may see them because they're still undergoing treatment and they need care, right? And so we will call these clinics up and we'll talk to them and say, here's how we treat. How do you feel about these cats going home into the community with ringworm? Do you want to see them when they need follow-up care? Because if so, we're going to make a nice list like this for our adopters that says, here's the vet clinics in the area that we recommend that we work with. And this doesn't have to be a battle between you and private practice veterinarians. It shouldn't be, right? We're all here to save animals. This is a win-win situation. I can find local private practices who say, oh yeah, ringworm, no problem. We'd love to see those cats. We would love to have all those new clients. We think what you're doing is great down there at APA. Awesome. We're going to put you in this little list and we're going to hand it out to our adopters that says, we recommend these vet clinics. They're on board with our life-saving program and they support us. Here's who you should go. And we're pushing out 11,000 adopters a year into the local community. So this is win-win for both you, the shelter, and the private practice vet. And so you've really got to cultivate that community of your local clinics. And the text message on the bottom is a real text message, and it's between me and our development director. And it's exactly how cultivating your local vet clinics works. And so I texted our development director when I got a feedback from one of our adopters of a leukemia cat. And the feedback from that adopter was that a clinic offered to claw her fetal leukemia cat, and then told her that we are irresponsible by adopting out leukemia cats who are leukemia positive, and that those cats should be killed to save hurt feelings down the road. And you can see where our development director replied, slightly horrified, and she said, I hope they're not on our list for recommended vets. And I'm going to call them up right now and talk to them about that. We're going to turn them down as a partner, but I'm going to tell them why. So cultivate. Don't be afraid to call up your local vet clinics and have a conversation with them. You guys should be working together with those clinics, and you're not necessarily going to agree, but that's okay, because you'll find lots of places that do agree, and it makes a really nice win-win relationship for you, that you can give adopters confident places that they can go finish up treatment with their pet, and you can drive business to those clinics, and it creates a really win-win community for you. So here, as promised, is where you can download all of our protocols on how to send cats and kittens home with ringworm. We're going to give you our adoption protocol, so exactly how the adoption of a cat with ringworm works. Our adoption waiver is available for download. All of our treatment FAQs are available. Our foster FAQs are available. Our complete guide to diagnosis, treatment, and care is available online for download. You can grab it all at AmericanPetsAlive.org under the resources tab. It's all free. You can download that and a ton of other resources, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Everything is right there for you that works for us in Austin. And two final things to plug. If you need more ringworm help, if you need help starting a whole new program, you don't know how to treat, or you've maybe not been treating, you don't know if you're treating according to the best science that's out there nowadays, we have in Austin, at Austin Pets Alive, a practical ringworm apprenticeship. I run it. It's 3 days long. It's very hands-on. So you can see in the photo on the right, those are 2 students who are dipping cats. You spend 3 days in Austin. We run through everything from diagnosis and screening to dipping the cats, to adopting the cats, to how to get fosters and adopters. It's a 3-day-long hands-on intensive practical apprenticeship. You can apply for that at AmericanPetsAlive.org. Not only is it free for you to come, but Maddie's fund provides a travel stipend so that it doesn't even cost you anything out of pocket to come to Austin. So if you need a whole ringworm boot camp, if you will, check that out at AmericanPetsAlive.org and come visit me, and we'll have you dip in some cats. And then lastly, I hope that you are all signed up for the American Pets Alive conference that's coming up in just about a month from February 28th to March 1st. Come on down and join us for our annual conference, and you're going to learn about ringworm and about lots and lots of other things, and all of our staff will be available for you to chat with and ask all your questions, and you can grab those tickets online at AmericanPetsAlive.org. So I hope that Rory's got some questions for us now.
Yes, thank you so much. That was such an interesting presentation. So the first question that we have is about trimming nails on ringworm cats. Is it true that trimming nails on ringworm cats helps to prevent the disease, the spread of the fungus?
There have not been any studies on trimming the nails to help prevent the fungus. I have not seen any studies on that. I don't think so. I don't think that would come into part. We do trim nails because it's less easy for us to get scratched when we're dipping. You should be aware that the ringworm thrives on keratin. Ringworm needs keratin to survive. So keratin that is in your hair, in your skin, and in your nails. So ringworm can live in the nail of a cat. So if you're going to trim nails, make sure that you are looking for ringworm in the nail so that you're aware if it's a toenail infection. We do know that microtrauma can spread the infection. And so I think that's kind of where your question is going on, a microtrauma. So this is why we don't shave ringworm cats, because we're introducing microtrauma along their skin, and ringworm is very, very opportunistic. So when we shave a cat, we run that clipper over the cat's skin, we're causing microtrauma along its skin. And then the ringworm, the fungus goes, ooh, look at all that little, look at that area that you've just introduced, all those little tiny scrapes and scratches. I'm going to settle in there. So that's probably what you're asking about trimming the toenails, but a cat's toenails are always sharp, and they're going to scratch each other if they want to scratch each other. So I don't think that we need to consider trimming the toenails as part of a treatment protocol.
Interesting. Do you adopt to households with children and other pets?
Other pets, yes, for sure. We go through that you should keep them separated. And of course, bathroom is the easy option for ringworm cats, both for fostering and adopting, because it's usually a nice tiled service that you can just go in and wipe down. All the time, yeah, people take home ringworm cats and kittens with other cats and dogs in their house. That's totally fine. If you have small children in your house, we do not recommend that you adopt a ringworm cat. Same way if you have an immunocompromised person living in your house, we do not recommend. That said, if you are an adopter and you come in and you say, I hear you, I understand everything you're saying, I'm going to sign my waiver, but I do have children in my house and I'm going to adopt this cat today. We trust that you are a grown adult and you know better than I do how to take care of your household. and that we go ahead with that adoption as long as you sign that waiver that says, I understand completely, you don't recommend it, I hear you, and I'm going to do what I want to do. We go ahead and do that adoption.
That's fantastic. So you're really trusting the people to make that decision after you've informed them of the risks, essentially.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a bigger picture topic in industry too, that yeah, we do need to trust our adopters. They are grown adults who are coming. I'm certainly not going to tell them how to raise their children or take care of their home. So if you are a grown, sane adult and you come in and we walk you through everything you need to know about ringworm, and you say, I can totally handle that, I'll keep my kids away from it. And we have lots and lots of adopters who have little kids at home and ringworm cats. And in Texas, ringworm is very, very common in Texas, and we actually have cats who get ringworm from kids in Texas. Kids come home from school with ringworm.
Wow.
and then give it to our cats. So this is, again, your child is not going to die if it gets ringworm. Is it going to be a pain in your butt? Yes, it will. Your child may also come home from school with lice and give the cats lice. So, these are the nature of zoonotic diseases. So cats with ringworm and kids in the house is not a foreign concept. It's not that bizarre. It's not that rare. All we're going to tell you is that, hey, it's not on our recommended list of things you should go out and do. But if you do want to do it, plenty of other people are doing it. And here's how to keep both your child and the cat healthy and from ringworm from going back and forth between the two.
I love that. Thank you. And then this one's about engaging local media and your community, doing news releases. Do you recommend or do any of those things with the program in Austin?
Yeah, for sure. We are always happy to get media about any of our specialty programs, but it's a great thing for ringworm too, because like I said, ringworm has this unfortunate name, right? Where I know all of you shelter workers have people that come in and ask if the cat has ringworms as if they're actual like round or tapeworms or something. And so anytime you can get media or press releases to talk about ringworm and really drive that point home, that it's actually not a worm. It's a harmless little fungus that lives in the hair. It lives in the dirt outside. It's very common. It's about as serious as athlete's foot. But would you believe that cats are killed in this country? Thousands and thousands of cats lose their lives for something as harmless as athlete's foot. Isn't that silly? That's why us here at XYZ Shelter have launched this new life-saving program that you can come down and support and look at these beautiful cats and look at them undergoing treatment. And by the way, did you know that their adoption fees are half off this week? You didn't? You should come down and get some right now. So that's all part of educating your community. Absolutely do press. Educate your community that these cats and kittens are losing their lives for something as silly as ringworm, and let them get involved and let them support your shelter. Absolutely. Do as much press on ringworm as you possibly can.
Excellent. I love that. And we could probably pull together an example of that if anyone is interested in seeing those. So the last question that we have, we have a couple more coming in. Do you want to talk about outbreaks, if outbreaks do happen in the shelter, and how to think and handle any outbreaks that are happening?
Yeah, for sure. So that's a really good question, because we talked about letting visitors come in and traipse through the Ringworm Adoption Center, right? We've got good protocols online that you can download for how we manage that, how we keep ringworm from spreading throughout the shelter. But we know that because environmental transmission is very low risk, that it's really not going to happen. Unless you have cats rubbing on cats, it's not likely to happen. That said, we do have some standard procedures in place. Like if you work in our Ringworm Adoption Center, you're not going to go cuddling other cats in the non-Ringworm Adoption Center, right? Just common sense, wash your hands, tie your hair up. There's lots of studies out there on things like how to do laundry. You don't have to burn the laundry. You don't have to throw away all of their things. It can go in the general population laundry and get moved on to other animals. There's studies out there that prove this. You don't have to just believe me. We don't see outbreaks of ringworm throughout Austin Pets Alive, and we've been doing this for 10 years. But we do track all of our ringworm intakes. And so I have a great spreadsheet I can send any of you who email me if you want it, our ringworm intake tracker. And what it looks like is, where did this cat come from with ringworm? And that can include other shelters. So we took it in from, a different shelter with ringworm, but we also tracked, did it come from our main cattery? Did it come from our Petco cattery? Where did this cat come into the ringworm program from? So that we can see if there is an outbreak happening in the shelter, we can track and go, you know what, we've taken a lot of cats a lot of cats with ringworm have come in from that Petco location lately. Something is clearly going on there. And then we can kind of revisit and see what kind of sanitation is happening there, what's going on. But we are very conscious that this was a groundbreaking, innovative program when we started letting people come in and handle the cats. And so we started tracking things really, really well. And what we've seen over a decade is that there just isn't a spread. There is not a pandemic that happens at the shelter. And that's even with people traipsing through the program, traipsing through the shelter, snuggling cats up against their shirt, and then going on and moving to other pet areas of cats and dogs. We just don't see outbreaks. And the same is true now of other shelters who have launched the same type of program.
Very interesting. And do you see any, do you see that cats heal faster in homes than in the shelter?
Yeah, 100%. That's true with ringworm as well as pretty much every other ailment that shelter cats get. They absolutely clear up faster in foster homes than they do in the shelter, 100%. Everybody who's not listening to this right now, you all know that a stressed cat is a sick cat. So, and that is literally the number one thing that we can do as shelter workers for cats is get them out of our care as quickly as humanly possible. But we absolutely see ringworm resolve much, much, much quicker in foster home than we do in the shelter. Plus they're getting that socialization that they often don't at the shelter. So yeah, 100% send these guys out to foster in droves if you can.
Thank you so much. And I think we'll do one more question. What if you don't have a shelter or a rescue space? What do you recommend?
Yeah, then have people come visit your ringworm cats in your foster home and let them go home from foster. Absolutely. I would say when someone contacts you and they're interested in your kitten, just have that conversation with them when they contact you that, hey, Fluffy is undergoing treatment for ringworm right now. Let me tell you about it. Doesn't mean you can't come adopt Fluffy right now. If you do, I'll send you home with the lime sulfur dip and show you how to treat in your bathroom. But absolutely send them home from foster. Just have that conversation when someone inquires about your foster kitten.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Monica. This was a wonderful webinar, and I hope everybody learned something today. And if you have more questions, please submit them to inquiries@americanpetsalive.org, and we will get to them. If we didn't get to your questions today that you did send in, we'll make sure to answer those and email you answers later today. This will be available online very soon. And if you ever have any other topics that you want to see covered in our webinar series, please email us and let us know what you're wanting to learn about. Thank you so much, Monica.
Thank you, Rory. Thanks everybody for joining us. Hope you have a great Friday and a great weekend, and go save some ringworm kitties.
Send them home. Thanks
Send them
again.
home.